Welcome, everyone. Welcome to the ASD Early Retirement Seminar. I'm Chell Warner. Arity Vance will be presenting, and we'll have Drew Hill from Precision Retirement Group, and then we're going to have our new Greg Polton from URS. He'll be the final presenter. Okay? So welcome, and first of all, know that nothing's changed. You're fine. Everything's the same. Everything the way it was. So I know everyone is completely worried about that. So just don't be worried. Nothing's changed. So we're at the retirement seminar, and hello. Okay. Oops. So to accommodate contracted, classified, and certified employees who elect to retire early means you're going to retire before your full Social Security age. That's how you retire early. Okay. And to comply with retired early and to comply with the requirements of the Age Discrimination in Employment Act, the following policies have been adopted by Alpine School District. So we've got certified policy 4253, classified policy 4415, and these are online. So a certified educator of the Alpine School District, you're going to receive benefits if you submit it by the deadline, which is February 1st. If the Utah legislature makes any substantial changes, then we will extend it to April 1st. To be able to get these benefits, you've got to meet one of the following criteria. So for educators who've completed immediately preceding retirement, a minimum of 15 years with Alpine. You've got to have at least 15 current and consecutive years with Alpine to qualify for the stipend. And you've got to be at least 60 years old in the contract year that you're going to retire. So if you're turning 60 in July or August of the next school year, you can't retire in that previous school year. Does that make sense? You have to be turning 60 in the school year you're going to retire. Educators who have completely or immediately preceding retirement a minimum of 15 current consecutive calendar years to qualify for the stipend and have accumulated sufficient years of service under Utah State Retirement System rules to qualify for a full unreduced pension benefits, which is 30 years. So what that just says in a nutshell, you first have to have 15 years with Alpine, you have to be at least 60 years old, or you need to have 30 years with URS. So if you have 30 years and you're not 60, you're okay. It's one or the other. Any questions so far? So this is a sheet of ages to receive your full Social Security benefits. What I've noticed is most of us are at the 1960 or later, so most of us probably in this room are at 67 to be your full Social Security age. There might be a few that aren't. Those are coming and going pretty quickly, but most of you are at 67. So the point being, 67 is your full Social Security age. If you want to get the full stipend, you have to go out 4 years before you're 67. Okay, up to 4 years before you're 67, the full stipend. Okay, this is the certified calculation that we use. We take your base salary that year, we subtract a brand new teacher's base salary that year. We get the difference, we then times it by 54%, and then if you're going out 4 years before you're 67, we can times it by a full 4. Here's an example. So one of you is a teacher and your base salary is $121,557. That's not including your productivity or your legislative money or anything extra like that. It's just the base, lane and step. Then we subtract from a brand new teacher's lane and step, which is this year $49,153. We get the difference. We take that amount, $72,404, and we times it by 54%, which we get $39,098.16. Then this person is going out way before they're 4 years before you're 67, being 63, so we can times this by a full 4. So this teacher is getting $156,392.64. A nice little chunk of change. Now, what it's saying at the below is if you're getting closer to your full Social Security age, so you're over 63 or over, it's going to be reduced by how many months it takes to get you to your full Social Security age. Okay, classified employees, non-teachers, who you need to have completed immediately preceding retirement a minimum of 15 contract years of service, 10 of which must be current and consecutive. A lot of classifieds can be hourly before, and then they get a contract, but we have to have 10 years of contract service, 15 total, but at least 10 years of contract service. And you also need to be, the year you're going to go out, at least 60 years old. Also, classified employees who've completed immediately preceding retirement a minimum of 20 contract years of service, 10 of which need to be current and consecutive with Alpine to qualify for a stipend and have accumulated sufficient years of service under Utah retirement systems, which is 30 years. So once again, it's either you have to have 15 years and be 60 years old or have 30 years with URS. So there are plenty of people that are younger, way younger than 60, that get 30 years. So it's just one or the other. Okay. Here's an example of the classified calculation. We take your current salary that year and we times it by 27%. It used to be 25%, so it's gone up. This is the third year, I think, that was been up. And then we take that amount and times it by a full 4 if you're going out 4 years before your full Social Security age. Now, at the bottom says that the amount minus the purchase of retirement service credit will be deposited in Precision Retirement Group account, not to exceed the legal limit, $72,000. So you noticed, well, here I'm going to show you an example of classified. Classified, a current base salary is $40,000. Times it by 27%, you're going to get the $10,800. We're going to times that by 4 and get $43,200. But what this is saying at the bottom is that, and Drew Hill's going to talk to you a little bit about this, how we give that to you, we're just not going to hand it to you. We put it in a 403B, pre-taxed, with Precision Retirement Group. And the most the government lets us put in it in a fiscal year right now, just changed to in 2026, is $72,000. So if your balance is more than $72,000, the remainder will go in January of the next fiscal year. Okay? So this early retirement incentive is completely separate from Utah retirement systems. It's completely separate from Social Security and any investments you've got. This is an extra bonus that we're giving you. It doesn't have anything to do with your social or your pension. It's totally separate. So, but you have to have contracted service, and you have to have qualifications by policy. You must be actively employed. You can lose it if you become unqualified at any time. You cease working. The stipend has a 4-year maximum of 48 months. So you might be 63, and so to get to your 67th birthday might be a little less than 48 months. We count up to that month, so you get exactly how many months it takes to get you to the month before you turn 67. And it's offset by unreduced Social Security benefits. We're doing that because you now qualify for full Social Security at 67. And this amount will be deposited in the tax deferred into the Precision Retirement Group account. And Drew Hill's going to talk a little bit about that, but does anybody have any questions real quick? Okay, we're going to turn the time over to Drew real quick, and he's going to turn it on.
Maybe we're going to get it. If it doesn't work, it's pretty simple. I'll be able to explain it to you. Pretty straightforward if it doesn't pop up there. That's probably why. Try this. Let's do that. While I'm doing hand signals with him in the back, I'm Drew Hill. My company is called Precision Retirement Group. I'm here locally. My office is in Kaysville, Utah, so I'm up in Davis County. I handle these plans for a number of school districts throughout the state. I've been working with Alpine District for about 3 years now, and this plan is pretty awesome. It's a great benefit. Like I said, I do this for a number of school districts, so the fact that you guys have what Chell just explained to you it's a pretty awesome benefit that the district pays out. So the bottom line on this particular plan is there's not a lot of bells and whistles to it. Let me just I kind of mentioned Precision Retirement Group's a national group. They have this plan implemented in entities throughout the country. We've got 25 entities, school districts, governmental entities that we work with here in Utah. We call it the special pay plan. I didn't update my limits yet. So 72, you heard that just a second ago. So that's the maximum that can be contributed into your plan. The bullet points, the things that you want to know about this, a 403B is a tax-deferred savings plan. You don't pay taxes when the money goes in. In this particular 403B, there are no fees, there are no costs. It goes into a guaranteed interest rate bearing account. There are no other investment options. It's just very plain, very vanilla. The current rate is 3.5%. The minimum rate is 1%. So that rate can fluctuate on an annual basis. It'll reset just based on where interest rates are each year. There's no fees or costs while it's in this account. And the main purpose of having this special pay plan in place for the school district and for you is to save the FICA taxes. The IRS has a guideline that's called constructive receipt, and essentially what that says is that on these types of benefits, OPEB, other post-employment benefits, you can't receive cash, and you can't have a choice on how you receive the funds. Otherwise, you, the retiree, are liable for your portion of the FICA, and the entity is liable for their portion of the FICA. So by having a default account that every retiree has to go with, no matter what happens, we were able to save you 7.65% and the district their 7.65% on their end. So that's the whole purpose of why we have it set up this way.
So there's no FICA paid on that?
Right. Yeah. So that's the savings. That's the main part of this, right? The key to this particular plan, no fees, no costs. It's 100% liquid. So as soon as the money goes into the account, you have access to it. You can make a distribution, withdraw it and spend it. At that point, if you do that, that's a taxable transaction, and you'll be taxed at your ordinary income tax rate in the year that you made the withdrawal. Okay, does that make sense? Any questions on that? The other option that you have is that you can roll this or transfer it over to another tax-deferred savings plan, like your URS 401k, or if you've already established another 403b, the money has to go to this account first, but once it hits this account, you have the flexibility to transfer it or roll it or move it to whatever other investment you choose to invest it in. Okay, but by going through this process, you save the FICA taxes. Okay?
So it's liquid regardless of age?
Yeah. All right. So there's limited circumstances where it will not be liquid. If you retire prior to age 55, it will not be liquid. Okay, 55 or older in the year that you retire creates liquidity in this account. Okay, it gives you the access. Now, if you roll that or transfer it to another type of investment, you may lose that flexibility if you're under 59 and a half years old. Okay, so the real key magic number that we always talk about in retirement is 59 and a half. If you're 55 or older in the year that you retire, there's open some doors. If you're under 55, you got to wait till 59 and a half. Okay?
What exact date does this go in?
It's a good question. I'm not going to speak for the district, but typically they pay it in the month following your last day of work. So if you retire in May, they typically make your first payment. If it's over $72,000, that would happen in June. They would then make a subsequent payment if there was anything left or above that in January of the following year. And if there was more than 140 that was being paid, 144 that was being paid out, then it would be the following January.
Follow-up question. If we're planning on using the stipend to purchase retirement years, does it have to go here first?
Nope, no. So if you buy years of service using these funds, that's all worked out with Shell and Arity. And if there's anything left after purchasing your years of service from your stipend, then I would be talking with you. Okay, good question. Any other questions on that, on those, in that vein? Okay. Again, we just kind of talked about this. There's no fees, there's no cost. This is last year's interest rate. It's up to 3.5, like I mentioned. Minimum 1% guaranteed. No fees, no costs. I'll help you walk through the enrollment forms. I can meet with you in person. We can do it electronically. I can do the enrollment forms via DocuSign. It's a pretty smooth, easy process. But again, it is a process that we have to go through with each of you just to make sure that we get the accounts established as you go out and prior to your first stipend being paid. So if you all in this room are retiring at the end of this school year, you'll be getting a call from my office between now and June. And we're going to be hounding you saying, hey, we've got to get this account set up. I need to review it with you, make sure you understand how to access it, those types of things. Okay? Well, we talked about this before. If you need to get access or you want to let the district know, Precision Retirement Group is our marketing agency, our marketing group. The actual company who will do the administration of this account is called Pelion Benefits, P-E-L-I-O-N, and you'll have access through either Precision's website or Pelion's website 24/7. It's an easy log on. All of their forms are one-page forms for your distributions, your anything. It's a very simple, like I said, very vanilla retirement account. I like to think of it as a tax-deferred, high-interest savings account. You can't write checks out of it. It's going to take you about a week, maybe 2 weeks to be able to access the funds if you need to, but it's there for you to use. And I always say this can be like the home repairs that you've been waiting to get done, or trip to Disneyland with your grandkids. You know, you want to buy a new car to celebrate retirement. This is a good spot for those kinds of expenses. If there's any questions, I can answer any questions that you might have right now. I'm also going to stick around. I severely underestimated how many of you are going to be here today. So this is the biggest group I think we've had since I've been, which makes sense with the changes that are coming. But so I had some cards in the back, but I'll have Chell and Arity have my contact info, and I can email that out to you if you need me to. Like I said, I'm accessible for you. If you have questions on this, I'm going to stick around tonight and answer any of those questions if you'd like. And then congratulations. If you're this close to retirement, it means you've been going a long time. So good job.
Thanks to Drew. It is a name you want to remember if you're going to be getting a stipend. We have a lot of you contacting us after and going, is this guy legit? And Drew Hill is. So remember his name. Okay, we're going to go over the second early retirement incentive, which is medical insurance after you retire. Okay, you can be eligible for either 4, 5, or 6 years. The first thing you need to know is you are only eligible for these benefits if you were hired on a contract before March 1st of 2006. So think about when you're hired. If it wasn't that before that, then you're not going to be eligible for the medical insurance after, okay? So you can pay attention if you were hired before that. Okay, so now you can find your hire date in the Employee Service Portal. If you left Alpine and then came back, this is based off your most current contract hire date. So you would not be eligible for that if you left, were hired before 2006, left, and then came back. Okay? Now, how do you know if you're eligible for 4, 5, or 6, assuming that you were hired before that March 1st, 2006? If you have between 1 and 10 years of experience as of July 1st, 2006, not now, as of July 1st, 2006, you're eligible for your 4 years of insurance. If you have between 11 and 19 years as of that date, you're eligible for 5 years of insurance. And if you have 20 or more as of that date, then you'd be eligible for 6. We rarely see 6 anymore. Okay, so not only the date matters, but then qualifying through these, the insurance eligibility. So you have to meet the following requirements. Also, we're talking about contracted years, okay? So you have to have completed at least 20 years, 15 of which must be current and consecutive to qualify for the 4, 5, or 6 years, and be at least age 60 during the year you're going. Or you have the 20 years, 15 have to be current and consecutive, and you have 30 URS years. So that eliminates the age requirement, right? If you have the 30 URS years. Okay, 6.11 says, if the spouse or dependent becomes eligible to join Medicare or is enrolled in another employer-sponsored health plan during the benefits cease until the dependent is no longer eligible for coverage under the other plan. And again applies for coverage under HIPAA, which allows for a special enrollment period to maintain continuous coverage when insurance is lost. So what this is saying is Alpine doesn't supply secondary coverage for spouse or dependents on a retiree insurance. Okay, so if you're retired and you have a spouse that doesn't have coverage and you qualify for 4, 5, or 6, they can stay on. But say they pick up insurance coverage through their other employer, then they're going to be dropped. Okay, so we don't provide secondary coverage. If they have no other coverage, they can be on. Okay, so if the spouse or dependents lose coverage during the retiree's 4, 5, or 6 years, that would be a qualifying event. Okay, so let's say you have a son and they're going to college and they're under 26. And during those 4, 5, or 6 years, they can be on there as long as they have no other coverage. But let's say during those 4, 5, or 6 years, he gets a job and picks up coverage. Then he would drop, right? Or let's say he has no coverage, you don't put him on the university coverage, he can be on, but then when he picks up coverage, if it's during that 4, 5, or 6 years, then his coverage would stop. Does that make sense? Yes.
Do they have to be your spouse on the day of retirement? What if you get married after?
That's okay. You can add a marriage. Yeah, you can add a marriage as long as it's during that 4, 5, or 6 years and they have no other coverage. Okay? Any other questions? Okay. So if you qualify for the 4, 5, or 6 years, and during that time you turn 65, and your hire date is before July 1st of 2000, you won't be dropped when you turn 65, but your insurance will be a Medicare supplement. Okay? If your hire date is after that, and you turn 65 during your 4, 5, or 6 years, the insurance will end at age 65. Okay, so you have to be hired before July 1st of 2000 in order to go on to the Medicare supplement during those 4, 5 or 6 years if you turn 65 during that time. Make sense? If you were hired after that, you can have the 4, 5, or 6 years, but if you turn 65 during that time frame, it ends right when you turn 65. And that's when you're eligible for Medicare, so it's not like we're leaving you stranded. You'd be able to get onto Medicare at that point. Okay, benefits from early retirement incentive program provided by the district are independent of URS. Retirees should carefully consider the effects of early retirement as it relates to Social Security, state retirement, income taxes, medical, and life insurance. All right, so there's a bunch of dates in here you've noticed, and so I do advise if you're thinking of going this year and haven't met with Chell or I, come in and meet with us because we can give you specifics on your case. Everybody is so different based on whether you were hired before 95 or whether you were hired before 2000 and things like that. So now we're going to talk about how you qualify for the Medicare supplement. Okay, number one, for certified, you must be hired before August 21st of 95. You must have 15 full-time years. And 3, you must be on the Alpine medical plan when you retire. So you aren't going to be not taking the insurance and then retire and pick it up. Okay, you have to be on it when you go. You would receive the Medicare supplement at age 65 if you qualify and if you sign up for Medicare A and B, bring your card into Human Resource, and then we'll get you enrolled. Okay, any questions on that? All right, so for classified, the requirements are 1, you must be hired before June 30th of 95. You must have at least 10 contracted years. You must be on Alpine's medical insurance at the time of retirement. And 4, be at least age 65 to receive the benefit. Okay, so this form, that it has to be turned in by February 1st. All the stipend and these medical benefits are contingent upon you filling out that form and submitting it by February 1st, right? Now, if you don't qualify for any of these benefits, that date doesn't apply to you. But that form is only online. You can access it by going to ASD Forms or on the first page of the Alpine Employee Gateway, and it's listed the 4th down. You can see it's the end of employment retirement form. All right, that's the form you'll fill out. Okay, it is due February 1st. February 1st of this year is a Sunday. It's still due on February 1st. So I would suggest you do it the week before and maybe even call and make sure that you've submitted it. You can't save it, you have to submit it. Okay, and then we need to be sure we've got that. Now, do know that this form is irrevocable. So don't turn it in before you know if you want to go. Okay, because otherwise you're going to be reapplying. And you're not going to know if you're going to be at the same school and the same job and all of that, right? So only turn this in if you're sure you want to retire. Okay, and February 1st is the deadline. Now, if you're strongly thinking of going out this year and you haven't met with one of us, we will fit you in before the deadline. If you're thinking of going out next year or the year after, if you'll wait until after the February deadline, and then we'll have you come in and we'll take a look at your situation, that would be really helpful. Okay, if you have questions, feel free to reach out to myself, Arity Vance, or Chell Warner. We'd be happy to help you. Now let's hear from Greg Poulton from URS. I knew that was going to happen.
Do I need to do anything up here? Okay. There we go. All right. Well, thank you. It's great to be here at Alpine School District. I don't know if any of you have worked with anyone from URS before. My predecessor, Tracy Wilder, is a great representative. I think he's been here the last 5 or 6 years, and we just had a shuffle in 2026. So I'm happy to be working out here with you folks in Alpine District, because you don't have anything going on that gives you any concern, right? Well, my name is Greg Poulton. I've been a financial advisor for almost 30 years. Most of it was in the private sector prior to joining URS, so, which is a great opportunity to come here. It gears down a little bit, and we can take a little more time to kind of help folks individually, maybe more so than I was able to, at least in mass, with a number of people. I'm a little new. All these concepts in this presentation are not new, but this is the first time I've done this one in this order, so if I get a little stumbly, bear with me. Plus, I'm getting over the flu. If I could do any other disclaimers, I would, but we'll just keep it with that for right now, okay? Hopefully, this is not unfamiliar to you, right? Most folks know, at least if not written this way, they know that, in order to receive the pension, it's all based on time and money, okay? Time in terms of how much time you have in the URS system, that you are eligible to receive benefits, and money in the sense that we're going to use the average of your 3 highest salary years. Now remember, those are your 3 highest, okay? I know during COVID, I've met with teachers and things where those ended up being their 3 highest, even though they had some later years. We use your 3 highest years to calculate your pension, okay? Here's just an example that folks can use. Assuming someone gets 30 years of service in our example, we plug in 30, multiply that by the 2% pension factor, and this individual, let's say, had an average salary of $60,000 when we looked at the highest 3. That means they're going to basically get a pension benefit equal to about 60% of their pay, or $36,000 a year, which we always quote in monthly terms, so $3,000 a month in this particular situation. But plug and play whatever numbers apply to you into this, and you'll have a pretty good idea of what your main line pension benefit would look like. But there are different pension benefit options when you go to choose and fill out the paperwork, and we're going to talk a little bit about those options as well. As far as when you can retire, either once you hit 65 years of age and you have at least 4 years of service, or any age if you have at least 30 years of service. I'm 54. I'm starting to get tired of meeting with people who have worked in the system 30 years and they're 48 years old or something, right? Didn't see it happening that way, but we do have that, and that's great. Good for them. I've got 2 daughters who are teachers, and yes, they're in the Tier 2 system, but still, it's better than most things in the private sector. So there are also exceptions to this rule. You could go at age 62 if you have at least 10 years of service, 60 with at least 20 years of service, or any age with 25 years, okay? But you'll notice these nasty little asterisks next to each of those exceptions. And the reason that's there is because if you take any of those options, you are assessed an early age reduction. Your benefit gets reduced. People wonder, well, how much is that going to be reduced by? If you're over the age of 60, okay, this gets a little confusing, but it's going to be reduced by 3% per year for each year you're below the age of 65. So 3% per year, so let's say you're retiring at 60. We run your pension calculation using that formula I just showed you, and then your 5 years prior to the age of 65 if you're retiring at 60. So we take 5 years times the 3% reduction, so it's a 15% reduction in benefit, okay? So for each year you're below the age of 65, it's a 3% reduction for those years. Does that make sense? Now, if you're under the age of 60, it gets nasty, because then it's 7% per year, okay, for those years under the age of 60, all right? Which some people have just had it and they're going to do it anyway, but if you can avoid that, it makes a big difference in your pension payment. okay? Yeah, these are the reductions in each case, okay? Here's an example of someone who's age 57. They hit the 25 years of service, so they're eligible to retire, you know, but they're going to be assessed the early age reduction, 15% for those years over the age of 60, and then another 21% for those 3 years below the age of 60 for a 36% reduction, okay? So it can really hit you pretty hard if you're under the age of 60 trying to do this, okay? The way to kind of push back against this, if you're in this situation, is you can purchase service credit. Anybody heard of buying time, buying credit? A lot of people? Anybody ever run the calculation? Were you sitting down when you ran it? Usually a lot of money, right? Like six-figure type money, like what you used to be able to buy a home for, used to. Not now, but used to. And there's a few different types of purchases. Let's say you're someone who, you started young, but you took some money back in the day. You could take some money out of the pension back in the 90s. You took some money out to purchase a first home, okay, or something like that, a few $1,000s, and then, you've still been accruing service, but when you took that money out, you negated those years that money represented, okay? So you can reinstate that, but you're going to pay it plus interest. Again, you start talking big money in most cases. Even if it was a modest withdrawal, it's usually not something that most people can just cut a check for and out of their normal checking account, right? It's usually a, 5-figure type of amount, depending on how much you took out early in your career, okay? But you can do that. There's also a service purchase. This is applicable if you had time, let's say you taught in the great state of Idaho for maybe 5 years, okay? You come to Utah, you work the rest of your career here in Utah. You may have the ability to convert that Idaho time or use that time or value in the Idaho pension to purchase time in the Utah pension, in URS, okay? To do that, to do any of these, you want to contact our pension department directly to help them figure out how much that would be, okay? The most common credit purchase we see or service purchase we see is the future service credit. This is the one that most people are doing. And that's the one where we have a calculator online. You go to urs.org, click the calculators. You have to be signed in. Click the calculator and put in how much service you want to purchase and what your salaries are, what your 3 highest salaries are, or that you're confident they will be. And that will give you an estimated purchase amount for however many years you want to purchase. However, there's a couple of stipulations with that. First off, let's say you are still a few years away from retirement, okay, a couple of years or something. You can't purchase the future service until the time of retirement, okay? As Shell will probably explain, there's a pretty tight window that money has to fund that purchase prior to your retirement date, okay? So that money has to be in there, settled, and paid for in order for that to count towards a future service credit purchase. But you can't buy it like 3 years in advance. It has to be done at the time of retirement, okay? Before. It has to be purchased before. Yep, good question. We typically have to have that money in the account about 2 weeks prior to the retirement date, okay? And we don't care where you get the money. Frankly, most people use their 401ks and things for that purchase. The positive thing about doing that is typically when you take money out of a 401k, what happens? You get taxed, right? If you use that 401k money, though, to purchase service credit, that's a non-taxable event. It's a trustee-to-trustee transfer. We're cutting a check from our what's called defined contribution department, our savings plan department, to our defined benefit department. You're never taking possession of that money, okay? It's going directly from one trustee to the other, non-taxable event, and you can use it to purchase that time in the pension system, okay? Yes?
I think
usually works out, well, so you're asking if we're projecting salaries, right? We don't project the salaries when you're making the purchase. Now, prior, when you're just knocking around calculations, yes, you want to predict your salary. But we're going to use the current value at the time of retirement of what your 3 highest salaries are on record, or will be once we get that last check from the district. But if you ran the calculator, it's going to say how much it would cost to buy that future benefit. So there's some discounting there on the calculator versus what you're actually going to get. Okay, good question. Any other questions on purchasing service? Yes?
Sorry, so just to clarify, so let's say like your last year you're teaching partway through the lane change.
Mm-hmm.
So if you purchase a couple more years,
Mm-hmm.
it would be at that high rate, so it would move your average up.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's what your pension would be based off of.
That's what your purchase would be based off of, yeah.
And what if you're using the early retirement incentive to purchase that?
That's fine, right?
Because
That
doesn't
happens in
get
order.
then a month after your retirement?
No, you'll bring us paperwork from the IRS, and payroll will cut a check. We'll contact you when the check is cut, you'll come and get the check, you take it out and shoot the IRS before within 60 days of your retirement.
Oh, okay.
And if there's a balance, that will go in the 401k.
Thanks, Shel. I haven't dealt with school districts that have this kind of a bonus program, so that she was talking about that, I'm like, what, serious? I want that, right? Go ahead.
So as far as like, you need this money at URS 2 weeks before we want to retire, then our retirement date with the district will be different than our retirement date with URS, is that correct?
So your termination date, right? Is it typically May 30th? 22nd, but it's in May. On the retirement date that URS uses, we have to use the 1st or 16th of any month. So you'd use June 1st in that situation as your retirement date as far as URS is concerned. We throw around the term retirement date thinking we're the only player on the block that uses that term, even though it's not, right? People think of retirement as the last day of work, but we make a definition between termination date, which has to happen no later than 1 day prior to your pension retirement date on the 1st or 16th. Okay.
Since we have all of you here right now, and I keep getting different answers, and that's why I'm really nervous right now. So the check the district cuts us, is it dollar for dollar, or are there taxes taken out of that? So I need to calculate that when I take that up to the state. Dollar for dollar. Dollar for dollar, okay. Okay.
Yeah, that would be a trustee to trustee transfer as well, from a 403B trustee to a pension trustee. Now, if the check gets cut to you, then yeah, take that check back, but I'm sure they don't do that.
Are they gonna, they're gonna cut it to you then?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep.
So I don't have to run it.
You have to take it out.
Oh, you have to take it up, yeah.
Okay.
Sorry.
All right, that's where I was like getting confused, because it's a really tight timeline, and
It is.
if you miss it,
You're-
you're out of luck.
You're in bad shape.
Yeah, okay.
No, you're good. Okay, so that's purchasing service. And if you have any questions on purchasing service, in that booklet I provided on the back there is the pension number towards the bottom. It's an 801-366-7770 number. And that calls our pension department directly. It's just that one number. You tell them what you're after, and they'll get you to the right person to help you with whatever questions you have, okay? But if it's for a service purchase of any kind, call them, let them know that's what you're looking at. They might ask a couple additional questions, and then they'll get you in touch with someone who handles service purchases specifically, okay? All right. Remember when I said there are various options that you can use that you can choose from when you actually go to retire? I mean, as we speak conceptually about it over your career, we've always said it's, the average of your 3 highest times the number of years times 2%, that's your pension. But in reality, there's variations on that. That is the highest amount you could receive. We call that, creatively, the option 1 amount, right? Option 1, and if you open your booklets, you'll see this table in there as well. But option 1 represents the highest pension payment you could receive because it's based on your life only. In other words, great if you live into your 90s, you're getting a great pension benefit, but if you're married and you like your spouse and you get hit by a bus, heaven forbid, 6 months after you retire, the pension just stops. They don't get anything, okay? So option 1 is just based on an individual life, you, the employee, okay? Option 2 typically isn't applicable to most people. It's only applicable to people that in the past may have participated in what we call the contributory plan. And what that is an option that's a little bit lower than option 1, but in the contributory plan there's a small balance, well not a small sometimes, but there's a balance that you can leave to a non-spouse beneficiary if you wanted to, okay? Most of those people have aged out of the system or are not in there anymore, so, but every once in a while we run across one. Most of the options we're gonna look at here for a spousal benefit are 3 through 6, okay? Very simply, option 1, in this case, we look at the ages of the 2 individuals involved, and if you took a lower amount than $3,000, say with option 3, $26.34 a month for your life, but if you pass away prior to your spouse, they will continue to receive $26.34 a month to the end of their life, and then once you're both gone, all payments stop, okay? You'll notice all of this is a spousal benefit. There is no way to leave a monthly benefit to children. That would make the pension really, really, really expensive, okay? So only to a living spouse, okay? Option 4 is a little bit higher than 3 because in this case, instead of the surviving spouse, if you were to pass away, the surviving spouse receives a 50% benefit. They get half of the benefit of the employee, okay? So you pass away first, they'll get half. Don't see this way too often, but sometimes people have his and hers money, right? Sometimes it's a second or third marriage and they have their own and they're gonna take care of the kids, but they don't wanna leave the spouse high and dry. We'll see option 4 come into play sometimes. The last 2, options 5 and 6, are just variations on 3 and 4. I can almost cut and paste them over 3 and 4 with one primary difference. You'll notice the amount is lower on 5 versus 3, okay? $25.94 a month. If you pass away, the spouse, surviving spouse, will continue to receive 100% benefit of $25.94. However, in the event that that spouse passes away before you, the employee, your payment will then step up to the single life amount for the remainder of your life, okay? Kind of dark and twisted, right? Don't get any ideas. We don't want this turning into a Dateline episode or something. Hopefully that's not enough incentive, right? But you can see it's you've got a what, $40 difference here between 3 and 5. For some people, they're like, you know what, I'll take the $40 hit to have that potential step up in benefit. And the reason we even have that is because if you've dealt with parents who have passed away or helped people settle estates, when you've got 2 people receiving Social Security, so I'm not talking about URS, but you've got a couple receiving Social Security, when one of the individuals in that couple passes away, you lose the lower Social Security amount. That doesn't necessarily mean, however, that your expenses get cut exactly in half, right? So this is a way to help push back against that decreased Social Security benefit, is the option 5. And the option 6, which is like option 4, right? If you pass away first, that surviving spouse will get half, but if that spouse passes away before you, they'll step up to the option 1 amount, single life amount, for the remainder of their life, okay? Does that make sense? It's okay if it doesn't, just tell me. There's a couple, feels like a shell game sometimes, but if you want the step-up benefit, you're looking at either 5 or 6. If you just want the higher monthly benefit without a step-up, you're looking at 3 or 4. Another way to think of it is, most men just choose 3 because they're convinced they're going to die first. Most women choose 5 because they're convinced their spouse is going to die first, and they're not statistically wrong, right? But yeah.
Are these percentages the same for all? Like if your benefit's higher, it's the same percentage?
Nope. It's all based on age, your age differences. So if you've got a bigger age difference, like my father-in-law, his wife is almost my age. He's a great guy, but you know, his wife's about, I don't know, late 50s. He's 72. It would be a much bigger difference to put a spousal benefit on here. There'd be a much bigger difference. But for most folks, within a few years of each other's birthdays, it's going to look something like this. Okay? Any other questions? Good? Moving on. How long do you want me to go, by the way? I'm just going to go to midnight then. We'll see how long. We'll see who lasts. No, just kidding. Oh, I'm sorry. This is exactly what I was talking about before. Like I said, I'm just a little rusty with this particular presentation. But the step-ups are the options 5 and 6 there. All right, who's heard of the PLSO, or Plazo, sometimes people call it? This is the lump sum that sometimes people talk about getting when they retire. This can throw people off a little bit too. If you look in the brochure, you'll see that table that shows the options, and then the monthly payment, and then 2 other columns that show the PLSO. PLSO, partial lump sum option, and it is a one-time payment sourced from your pension. Think of how the pension works. Over the course of your career, every time you got a paycheck, the district had to put money into the pension to cover the future cost of that pension benefit. And so that amount has grown to a certain amount per person, okay? When you go to retire, we take a look at what that anticipated amount is for you. And if you want to take a lump sum, we'll take out an amount equivalent to either 12 months worth of pension payments or 24 months worth of pension payments in a lump sum. So 1 or 2 years worth of money in a lump sum, okay? But remember that the source of that money is your pension. So thinking of the pension as a pool of money, if you take a chunk of money out of that pool, that shrinks the pool and will thereby shrink your monthly payment, okay? So if you take a lump sum, the first thing you want to be aware of is that is going to permanently reduce your pension monthly payment, okay? So here's an example. For this individual, a 12-month PLSO is $36,000 because they were going to get $3,000 a month on that baseline figure. If they go with, say, option 3, right, they were going to get $26,34, but if they take that $36,000 PLSO, that's going to reduce their pension by about $200 a month, okay? So not a devastating amount, but over a third of someone's lifetime, it's a pretty fair chunk of change to not be getting, right? Or you can take the higher amount, double, and that would take it down another couple $100. Now we're at $24.09, right? In that case. So first off, know that that will impact your pension monthly payment. It will decrease it if you take that. The other thing to bear in mind is if you take that directly, right? Say, you know what? I could use 72 grand. I think I want that, right? And I'm okay with a $400 a month lower pension payment. What do you think the issue becomes if you just take that directly? Taxes, right? How is this taxed? Anybody know? It's like you just made it from your job. So you're in the year, say you're retiring this year, you're going to get half a calendar year's worth of salary, right? And then you tack on another $72,000 onto it. Do you think that's going to increase your tax bill a little bit? Yeah, it will. So typically 20 to 30% is going to go to taxes, and you get what's left, okay? Doesn't mean we're discouraging it necessarily. If you don't need it, though, I do discourage it, frankly. Yeah?
Besides taxes, is there a penalty if you take one of these and you are way below age 60?
Yep. Then you have the 10% penalty as well. Now, to avoid the immediate taxation and penalties, if you are in that or in any circumstance, You can direct us on the application, say, I want my PLSO, but I want it to go directly to my 401k. And we will do that. That makes it a non-taxable event. So sometimes people will say, yeah, I'm going to take that smaller PLSO, but I want it to go to my 401k. And then in the next year, when I don't have any salary, in 2027, then I might use some of it because I won't have as high an income amount that year because I won't have earned income, right? So that's one way to deal with that, the PLSO. Some people are like, you know what, give me my PLSO, move it to the 401k. I can make more money in the 401k than than I'm going to get hit on the downside. It's a valid argument in many cases. If you do a one-on-one appointment with us, we'll actually figure how much you would need to make on that money every single year to break even. For most folks in a typical retirement situation, it's 6 or 7% a year, okay? That's not that difficult to average, but it's very difficult to get guaranteed every single year, time after time, okay? So you're taking money from a no-risk payment to a market risk fluctuating type of investment in order to do that. Some people are fine with that, and that's okay. Just know that, okay? Yeah?
Just in my case, so if you're way below the age 60, you do take the lump sum, throw it into your full 401k, and then don't touch it till you're 59 and a half.
Yeah. You're good.
Okay.
Yep. Just like it'd been sitting there your whole career. Yep. Good question. Okay. Another thing, sometimes in these scenarios, and not that fair is a good word to use if you have children. I hate using the word fair because it seems to come up a lot, right? But if you're a single individual and you don't have a spouse, you're basically left with option one, right? And if you were to pass away soon after you retired, money just stopped, right? Nothing went to anyone. Another thing that you can do with this PLSO, now take care of yourself first, make sure you're getting enough monthly income. But you could elect to take the PLSO, either one of them, have it moved directly to your 401k, invest it. If you're conservative, invest it conservatively. If you're aggressive, invest it aggressively, or anywhere in between. That way, if something does happen to you in the first couple of years of retirement, you carved out a piece of your pension for your children, okay? It's something you can do as a single individual with children, if that's the case, all right? Or anyone. It doesn't have to be your children. It could be my children, if you'd like, and I'll give you their names and birthdays. Okay? All right. Online calculators. Anybody used any of our calculators online? They're not always the most intuitive, but typically you can get things figured out after a little bit. What if you die before retirement? Okay? First off, there's two components. First off, your primary beneficiary on your pension, okay, is going to receive a one-time payment equal to 75% of your highest annual salary. Okay? That's the first component. And that can go to a non-spouse beneficiary. That part can. Okay? Single payment equal to 75% of your highest salary. Now, if you are married, and you've been married for at least 6 months before you pass away, and you either qualify for retirement, but are not yet retired, so you're either 65 or have 30 years of service, or you have at least 15 years of service, then there is a career death benefit, basically a monthly pension benefit to that surviving spouse. How it works is, if you've been with URS at least 15 years in the system, we'll run the pension calculation based on the years you have, and then they will get a third of what that pension benefit would be, okay? If you have 15 to 20 years, they'll get 2/3 of what your pension benefit would be. And if you have over 25 years, we're just going to give them what that benefit would be. Yeah.
So they're getting like the option one?
They're going to get option 3, actually.
Oh, okay.
Yep, it's the option 3. Good question. Somebody's always clever that way. It's the option 3, okay? So, heaven forbid something happens between now and retirement, but you're getting close to retirement, your spouse will be taken care of. Yeah. The spouse? All right. this is the process. Steps to retirement. In that booklet I gave you, there's a double-paged or a two-sided page in there. You want the one that says retirement checklist, and that has, I believe, a 3-year time frame and then a 90-day time frame. That's what we're talking about. So once you're within 2 to 3 years of retirement, call our pension department and get an official estimate, okay? If you've met with one of the advisors and we sat down and we ran an estimate, that is not an official estimate. That is a ballpark. It's usually pretty good. We're pretty good. But it's a ballpark. You need an official estimate on file before you can apply for retirement. Some people get these a lot in those last 3 years. Some people don't. I tell people definitely don't wait. I mean, at least get it once you're within 6 months of retirement, because that way it takes 2 months for those to get put together, because our pension department will go back through every single pay period that you've had and calculate the benefit or an estimated benefit based on everything we have historically up to now to make sure you're getting credit for everything. But then when you go to actually retire and request the application, as long as that estimate is no more than 6 months old, they can use that and you don't have to wait for them to refigure an estimate. Okay? So I tell people, you know, get it once you're 6 months out. But some people like to get it sooner. You can do it within 3 years.
Is that the same as going online and you click the request and then it comes to you?
Yes, that is the same. Thank you. I forget it's online. It's only been there for 5 years, but yeah, I still forget. So you can go to the URS website, make sure you're logged in, and then request a pension estimate. Like I said, it takes a couple weeks for them to put it, or a couple months for them to put it together, but then you have it so that when you're ready to retire, it's a phone call, or again, you can also apply on the website now, actually apply for retirement. As long as that estimate's no more than 6 months old, you're gonna get that application pretty quickly. If you don't have an estimate on file, then you're gonna be waiting for 2 months just to get your application while they figure up that estimate, okay? And that gets really frustrating for a lot of people, and I've just lost all sympathy for people that do that. No, I'm just kidding. It's a dog ate my homework kind of thing, right? So, but you can call for that anywhere within 3 years of your anticipated retirement date. It does not commit you to retire on that day, okay? You are not committing to that in any way, shape, or form. It's just an estimate, okay? Like I said previously, you have to use the 1st or 16th as your URS pension official retirement date, and you cannot have that same day be your last day of work. It has to at least be the day prior. So if you're going out on June 1st, it can be no later than June 30th as your last day of work. It has to be a bona fide termination that you are no longer with the district, okay? All right. Now, once you're within 3 months of retirement, that is when the window opens that you can actually request the application. This is the big thing everybody wants to know when we talk to them is, when can I actually request the application? Once you're 90 days out from your anticipated retirement date, okay? You can call our pension department on the number here in the brochure or go online to request the application, all right? But on the application, it's gonna have a few pieces of information that we require, okay? Oh, also, you can make an appointment to go in and meet with a pension representative in our downtown office if you want to go through that paperwork. It's fairly straightforward paperwork, but just like with anything, if you're not familiar with it, sometimes people make mistakes. I do. If you'd rather go in and meet with someone, that's fine. Nowadays, the application, unless you tell us otherwise, is an online application via the website, so it won't let you make contradictory choices. It actually makes it better to do it through the website, which I know a lot of people don't believe, but that way it eliminates things that used to take us, like our processing time was cut by about 30 days once we went to the online system. So it's pretty straightforward, but if you want to, you can set up an appointment to go to our downtown office in Salt Lake, meet with a pension representative, and complete your paperwork, okay? What we will need from you: copy of your birth certificate, This can just be a copy. We don't need raised seals. We don't need originals. It can just be a photocopy. You can scan it in, take a picture, send it in with your application via the website on our message center. It'll walk you through how to do that. Or just send it by mail, even fax. We still have a fax there somewhere. You send that birth certificate in, just a copy. Spouse's birth certificate if you're married, and then a copy of a marriage certificate. Again, just a copy. We don't need an original or anything, okay? If you don't have these, check with the states where you were born or got married. Typically, you can get that from them, okay? A lot of times you can just do it online. We couldn't find our marriage certificate. We needed that for something, and we got married in Washington State, got online, requested it, and we had it within a week or two, I think. So you can do that. Then, if in that application, the electronic packet, that's where the application will be. That's where you're going to choose, I want option 3, no PLSO, or yes PLSO. I want the 24-month, send it to my 401k type of thing. That's where you make that choice, is on the application, okay? Then there's the W-4 form. The pension is taxable, federal and state, especially if you're in Utah. We've got state tax. If you move to another state where they don't, that's great. Just stop your Utah tax withholding, okay? Move to Nevada, cool. Just stop your Utah tax withholding. But there will be the W-4 tax withholding form in there and a reference to a worksheet if you're trying to figure out how much you should have withheld, okay? Also, the beneficiary form will be in there, a direct deposit form so we know where to send the money. Notice of bona fide termination requirements. You'll have to sign saying that, yes, I will not be working for any URS employer at the time of my application, okay? And then notice of the post-retirement employment restrictions. Lots of people have questions on these, right? Some people come back and work at the district. I'm sure you've probably all seen people that do it. If you want the full green light to do that, make whatever you want and get whatever benefits are in store, wait a year, okay? Wait a year before coming back to any URS employer if you just want to keep receiving your pension payment and make as much as you want. We have a couple of, oh, let me get back to this and then I'll hit that in a minute. Your first check may take up to 90 days to arrive. I would say plan on it taking 90 days to arrive, okay? The good thing, it seems like, with teachers, though, is you get paid through the summer typically, correct? And that money was earned, though, in the past school year, right? So you can still be terminated from employment but still get those checks because you earned them previously. So a lot of times, 90 days works great. Teachers get a check in June, July, and August, and by then, the pension's starting, okay? That first pension check will be retroactive to your retirement date, so it will be a bigger check, okay? But then plan on it being your estimated amount or close to that estimated amount. We always send those out, or send them out, deposit them, electronically deposit them on the last business day of every month, okay? Depending on how quickly your bank credits them, I talk to people who get them at the last of the month and people who get them at the first of the month, depending on what their bank does, okay? But that's when we send those out. And when we send it, you'll also get an emailed, like a pay stub, right? You'll get, it says, this is your pension amount, this is what was withheld for state, this is what was withheld for federal, this is what you're receiving net of your tax withholding, okay? And then at the end of the year, you'll, instead of getting a W-4 like you've been getting while you're working, you'll get a 1099-R, R is for retirement, that tells you how much you received from your pension in the past year to file your taxes. And it's treated just like ordinary income, like I said. The one tax you won't pay on it, and it's been alluded to here earlier, you won't pay FICA tax on your pension check. FICA tax will only apply to wage-based earned type income, not pension benefits, not 401k withdrawals, okay? So you won't have that to deal with. There's also a cost of living adjustment built into the pension, okay? It occurs annually on the anniversary of your retirement. It is equal to the rate of inflation of the prior year based on the Consumer Price Index. If you want to get technical, it's the All Urban Consumer Price Index. And it is a simple COLA but will never go up by a factor greater than 4% from one year to the next, which used to be a non-issue for a long time, till we hit, what, 2020, right? So what happens is we always look to that first year's amount and then look at the prior calendar year's CPI, the inflation rate for the prior calendar year. We take that rate, multiply up to a 4% limit, and apply it to that first year's pension payment. And whatever the result is of that calculation, we then add it onto your pension. So it's not a compounding rate where we're always looking at the new year's increasing amount to increase that pension. It's a simple COLA. We always go back to that year, but then that first year, but then we add it onto your monthly payment going forward. So it does go up. Takeaway is it goes up a little bit each year, but it's not enough to send you on a cruise or something, right? In those years, though, that we do have inflation rates higher than 4%, which we've seen, let's say it was a 6% inflation year, what we do is you'll get a credit based on the 4% cap. We will bank the difference, that 2%, and then in a later pension year, if the inflation rate is lower than 4, we'll add enough back on to get that to the 4% until that banked amount is gone. So it's not totally lost. It's just there so that a couple crazy inflation years don't swamp the pension, okay? There's safeguards built into it. That makes some level of sense. So just plan on it going up a little bit every year around the anniversary date of your retirement, okay? Here's the COLA history. So 2021, 2022, we've got people in 2024 and 2025 who are getting some of that banked amount if they were retired prior to 2022 and 2021, okay? So the banked amount is carrying over to these people, all right? The other thing, taxes, we've alluded to these. It is subject to federal and state. You can change your withholdings, though, at any time. So you're not locked into whatever you choose when you fill out your paperwork. If you're getting a significant check back at the end of the year, more than you were expecting, then maybe back off your withholdings, right? If you're having to write checks, that seems to get people's attention more than anything at the end of the year because you didn't withhold enough, go in and change it and withhold more in your taxes. If you really want to dial it in and you've got a CPA, talk to them and let them look at your overall financial picture to get some help with whatever amount you want to withhold, okay? Yes, and you receive that 1099-R each year to file your income taxes, okay? Now, let's talk post-retirement employment. There's tranches of time you want to be aware of. First and foremost, never, ever, ever come back and work for a URS employer within 60 days of your retirement date. Never, ever. That will stop your pension payments. You'll have to repay those pension payments along with interest, and you'll start accruing new service in whatever job you're doing, but it's going to take some time for those years to vest again as well, okay? So don't do that. Just don't. I've only seen one person that ever did. He was really bitter, too. You can, however, after 60 days, you can come back and work for URS employer, any URS employer, but you can't make more than about $20,000 a year, and you can't receive any additional benefits, okay? So no health care. So these might be people that come back and work occasionally as subs or something maybe, right? And a few days a year or something just to kind of stay with things, right? So this is the 60, if you return after 60 days and within 12 months, retirement check continues, work in a non-benefited position, salaries limited to that $20,893, okay? This is a new one. This came into being in July of last year. This is the new 90-day window, okay? So if you come back and work for a URS employer within 90 days, you can do that. Granted, you have to work that out with the new employer. You have to let them know that that's the case. And they have to offer that to you. It's not just a blanket, everyone gets it, but you have to be offered that job. Your retirement check will continue, but at a reduced rate, okay? 80%. So your pension payment goes down by 20% while you're working for that URS employer, and you do not participate in the COLAs, the cost of living adjustments, while you're working for that employer. But you can work in a benefited position and make as much money as they're willing to pay you. There's no cap on that, okay? Yeah.
So that 90 days, is that from the day of termination or the first or 16th?
First or 16th. Yep. So,
And you got a diminished check at 80% until the full year or until when?
till you stop working for that employer again. So, yeah. Okay, good on that? Oh, back here, yeah, sorry.
Do these restrictions apply to someone that was in the contributory system?
I believe so. It's a good question. I have not heard anything that excludes them from that. And I know this applies to the Tier 2 system, so I would think it applies across all systems. It does for the public safety system, for instance. So, yeah, I would think so. But if you want to make sure, call that number that's on the pamphlet and ask for sure if you're contemplating that. It's a good question. Okay. If you decide to come back after a year, most people just keep getting their retirement check, okay, and then take whatever salary and benefits are offered with the position. They don't accrue new pension credit, though, unless they suspend their pension check. So if you want to accrue new service in, coming back after a year, you can do that, but you have to stop your pension. I've never seen anybody do that. But it could be viable if someone's willing to pay you enough that those extra 2 years make a big difference in your pension payment, right? But for most folks, they just keep getting their pension, and then they get their salary, and they live large, so to speak, right? It's my father-in-law. He's 72. He's still teaching. But he left, I think, what, in 08 or so? 07, 08? Yeah, so they live a lot better than they did early in his career. Let's put it that way. Okay, everything that we've been talking about here so far has been pension-related. Are there any pension questions out there that haven't been addressed that aren't just like, really unique one-offs? I can answer those after, but is there anything out there? Yes? Yeah. Yep. Unless it's some weird kind of bonus, but it's normally it's just all included in your compensation, right? Things you don't get credit for is if you have like a cell phone allowance or car. I'm sure a lot of you get Alpine district cars to drive around, right? So, no, that's the only stuff that really doesn't count for the pension. Any other pension questions? Good. Okay. Savings plans. So now we're talking about 401ks, 457s, Roth IRAs, the traditional IRA. We've got those 4 plans. Most people have something in their 401k. So if you want some help, if you're saying, hey, I haven't changed my 401k since I started back in 1994 or whatever, right? You can go online, take a questionnaire. So go into our education piece. You have to be logged in. Click this investor profile. And then you can answer 10 questions. It takes about 5 to 10 minutes, and it will suggest an investment for you, okay? Or you can sign up to meet with one of us at URS. We'll talk about how to do that in a second. Once you leave, you are not required to roll over your account. A lot of people think that. You're not. We have a saying at URS, once a member, always a member. You can keep your accounts with us. We do not charge you maintenance fees unless it gets down to like, I don't know, $100 or something, and then I think we charge you a $15 maintenance fee or something like that. But for the most part, there's no additional costs. All of our investment funds are very low cost internally. You can always change your beneficiaries. You can reallocate your investments and change deferrals if you're still working. Then if you're not working, you can still go in and change your investments. You also have the ability to go in and meet with the URS representative still, even if you've stopped working. And you're like, hey, why is my account doing this? What's going on here? And we can talk through it and maybe help you choose a better investment or a more suitable investment. Withdrawal options, yes, you can leave your funds with URS, you can roll them over to another account, or you can withdraw your funds and spend your money, right? Just be aware that anything you pull out of those tax-deferred plans has a tax consequence to it. It will add on to your income for that year that you take the disbursement, okay? How to do it? We have different withdrawal options. We've got a form online that you can fill out. If you have questions, again, call us at that number and we can get you to our savings plan department. If you want the full balance, great, partial, or what a lot of people do is just take periodic payments. Maybe they want a certain amount a month. We'll even run a life expectancy type of calculator and say, okay, based on the amount you have here and projected returns, we're saying you could reasonably take out, you know, $300 a month or something, okay? We can help you with that. These are the different options. Like I said, a lot of people do it monthly. Some people do it annually, but there's all kinds of different ways you can take it. And you're not locked into these, okay? Once you start it, you can always adjust it, change the amount, increase it, decrease it, stop it. That's under your control, okay? Another thing, you might look at your account and it might say something like target date 2035 fund, okay? That doesn't mean that you can't touch your money until 2035. That is just telling you what kind of investment mix you have, that it's appropriate for someone who's retiring around the year 2035. Because that one fund has about 11 different funds in it, some more aggressive, some more conservative, and the lower that year, the less aggressive the account. So like a 2025 fund is less aggressive than a 2030, target date 2035 fund. But it has no bearing on when you can use your money, okay? To set up an individual retirement planning session, those are all handled online. If you called us, we can't schedule it for you just because you call our number. It's all handled via the computer, so you do have to log into your URS account, go to the education tab, and then click on one-on-one sessions, and it will show you our schedule, where we are. We do these all throughout the state various times. I'll do some out here occasionally, upcoming. And then we always have our virtual appointments. Those are the most popular. Maybe not most popular, but most widely used. And that, you know, we just talk over the computer and I can share my screen and go over how much time you've got in the system. We can run a couple scenarios, give you an idea of what you're looking at in terms of retirement, and by looking at your own specific numbers. So it's very individualized. There is a wait on these. Right now we're probably about 3 weeks booked out. Inside baseball, we update those every Monday morning. So if you're looking to get an appointment, you're not seeing anything, go in around Monday around 10:30. That's probably your best bet of getting a spot, okay? We have increased the number of people in our office though, and I've noticed that the wait time has compressed a little bit, so it's not quite so tough. We're always doing them in person though, in our downtown office in Salt Lake, if you'd rather be in person, or you can wait until I come out here, or if you notice that there's something, you know, maybe out at, there's nothing up there. I don't know, at American Fork City, a particular day, you can still sign up for that. It doesn't need to be at Alpine School District. You can go to any location and sign up for one, okay? That is pretty much it for what I have. Any questions on that? Yes?
This is a URS or a district question, but when we retire from the district, do they automatically stop taking out things like Sunshine Fund, Alpine Foundations, or do we need to submit paperwork to stop all of that?
When your checks stop in August, so if you don't stop it before,
It will stop it. Okay, great.
Anything else? Questions, rumors? No? Okay, well, good luck. Oh, yes, go ahead. Go ahead.
There's something we were told that if you have a jump repay,
Uh-huh.
then that affects what your
It can.
3-year
Yeah, so if your pay went up by a factor greater than 10% from one year to the next in your average years, then that pay jump will not fully count towards your average salary. And we saw this a lot during like 2021 and stuff. I saw it, I worked with corrections at the time, and they were getting like 3 raises in a year, and they were going from like $70,000 to $100,000. And when that happens, if it's not due to a promotion, then, and a lane change is not a promotion, then yes, that year jump will only count by a maximum of 10% from the lower year. In other words, say you went from 80,000 to 100,000 from year 3 to year 2, right? Well, what's 10% of 80,000? 8,000? So you'd be at 88,000 for your second year, not 100,000 for your second year. But if it's due to a promotion, you're fine. It doesn't count against you. Yes?
So if, like, I'm a half contract, so when I go full-time, how does that work? That's not a bonus, it's
No.
not a promotion.
No.
Is it that,
You'd want to get, I mean, frankly, you'd want to get 4 years at the full-time amount in order to get the full payout.
okay, so that leads into another question that I had. When Alpine splits, does the stipend just disappear? Like, if I don't retire before Alpine no longer exists, I mean, because like,
It'll be based on the new board's,
what?
it'll be based on the new board's decision. So it may still be there if they keep it, but it'll be up to them. Right
So
now, we don't
someone
know.
can be in the district for like 27 years, and then the district splits, and then you just lose all that.
Again, we don't know. It'll be up to the new boards to decide that.
And when will that, like, what's the timeline for that?
I mean, it is guaranteed through the 27-28 school year.
Yeah, so not next year, but the next year, 2 years, we have that promise.
And hopefully they'll have that information before the end of that year, but it's really, again, up to the boards. We have no inside information.
So if, this is more of a personal question, but where you said the 4 years, like, I only have 4 years till I retire, but I'm possibly buying out the last 2. So if I go full-time for the next 2, when I buy out the next 2, would that be 4 years of the full-time employment?
No, they're still going to look at what you earned between those differences in the 2 years when they go to figure up your purchase. So it will make your purchase cost less because it'll be discounted because of the 4 years, but it won't increase
Because I would have to
your salary.
purchase the full-time years. Like, if I go full-time the next 2 years, and then I purchase the next 2 years, it would be full-time.
Right, but we're going to use whatever salaries are on file to compute your purchase.
Over the last 15, the past 15.
Well, we look at 3 years of, well, we look at 4 years of salary history, but take the 3 highest unless the 4th year is greater than a 10% difference. So if you probably want to call and get an estimate. If you're within 3 years, call and get an estimate and let them know that's what you're trying to figure out, and then they can run that for you. Okay? Yep. All right. Thanks, everybody. Cleared out half the room. Cool.